emergency exists and the nature of the emergency is stated in the minutes. So again, let the minutes reflect that unfortunately we are still in this pandemic known as COVID-19, that the City Council is meeting for their own safety as well as the safety of the general public.
Thank you, John. First order of business is approval of our February 4th and February 11th work session minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
We've got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right. Motion passes. First order of business this evening is going to be administration response to the Citizens Finance Committee recommendations. Citizens Finance Committee made their presentation a few meetings ago, and we asked Russ to basically go through it and give staff's responses to each of the recommendations in each of the subjects. So that is what we're going to do. So Russ, if you will kind of go through it, and we'll try to get through all this in about 40 minutes. So
certainly, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to put a little context to it in the sense that the CFC has worked with the city for a number of years, producing these recommendations. And in the last few years, we have had a response to each of the recommendations, basically, that was produced after the budget was adopted. And I know Mr. Ward suggested that it might be more helpful to have these management responses so City Council could take those into consideration as well as the CFC's recommendations prior to the adoption of the budget. And that's where we are today. I worked closely with the department heads that were directly impacted by the recommendations to take their input and to incorporate that into administration's responses to the CFC. And I do want to preface that the CFC's report is largely, greatly supportive of what the city has been doing. The recommendations in a number of cases, management fully concurs with them. And you'll see that as we go through these, we're in great agreement on the bulk of these recommendations. And where we do diverge, and certainly with full respect to the input of the CFC and their analysis, and we want council to certainly consider the perspective of staff and the CFC in these recommendations. So with that, I'd like to just move forward with the revenue and fund balance. This is the
Russ,
first.
can I interrupt for 1 second? For council, it's probably best if there are questions or comments, do it on, sometimes I wait till the end, but let's do it in the specific, while Russ is talking about that particular topic. I think it's.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead, just raise your hand. Just raise your hand if you have a question through that. Sorry, Russ.
Yeah, Laura, you can go ahead and put that up.
Okay, one moment. I'll bring the document up on the screen.
And I don't know if City Council has a hard copy in their lap or anything, or on their desk
Does everyone have all the council have a copy in front of them?
Yes.
Yeah. Why don't, unless you really want to, why don't we just leave it, just comment on it.
You don't want on the screen?
No, that's fine. So if council, I can't see everyone. So if council has a question, you just have to kind of blurt out.
Yeah, that may be the better way to go anyway. It's being a work session and all.
Yep.
So here we are. Management's responses are in red to the recommendations, and I'll give a quick description of the recommendation. I'm not going to read it verbatim necessarily, but obviously the CFC says they support monitoring COVID impact of revenue sources. The city has certainly been diligent in its efforts to monitor that. Finance director and I meet on a weekly basis, basically, to discuss where we are with revenue impacts. as a result of not just COVID, but just economic issues on a macro and a micro scale. So, we're in agreement that that's a smart move, and we're going to continue to do that. And we do adhere to the general fund balance policy. And we have worked to maintain level of services through fiscal year 21, which is the one we are currently in. We expect that the new budget, which is a financial plan for the future operation of the city, will reflect those types of measures going forward. And it was put together on a very conservative basis with regard to revenues, no huge assumptions of great growth or anything along those lines, where we're in a emergency situation due to the pandemic. And we'll continue at the beginning of fiscal year 22. And we don't know exactly when that situation will change or the economy will have a remarkable upturn. We don't expect a remarkable upturn throughout fiscal year 22. So we have done very conservative estimates and projections on revenues, and likewise on expenditures as well. The city also does support the 5% dividend distributions, as does the CFC. So that is our take on that first recommendation. Any questions?
Wayfair is so important for us to work on getting past this year more than ever. I understand we're only one of 2 states that doesn't have some kind of tax on internet sales. So I really think we need to engage both our state rep and our state senator to try to get that done for us.
I would not disagree on that at all. Any other thoughts? All right. The next recommendation was, again, the CFC is in agreement with the city. The city is in agreement with the CFC. We walk in lockstep here that we need to monitor risks with legislative actions concerning a number of things, including the internet sales tax, that's known as Wayfair, and telecommunications revenue, cable franchise fees. There are proposed bills right now that would limit cable franchise fees, that would limit telecommunications revenue, and limit utility gross receipts tax revenue. All of these are going to have an effect, if they were to be passed, if any one of these were to be passed, of redistributing the taxes to property tax, because the city doesn't really have any other means to collect. And I know our citizens would not necessarily favor a property tax increase. So the end result is, if you don't redistribute to property tax because of a statewide action to reduce your revenues, you may have to cut services. Mm-hmm. And Kirkwood has a very high quality level of service. I think our citizens expect and demand that, and we expect and demand to the performance of those services at the city level. So that's just something to keep in mind. We do monitor it very closely. We do reach out to our representatives at state and federal level as much as we can to hopefully have their support in not redistributing those revenues, because it can make the state look really good. Oh yeah, we cut your telecommunications tax or something along those lines. But what that does is it creates a need to keep the quality of services. It creates a need to have that tax collected somewhere else. So,
Russ, I had a comment on that. I had a question. Because unless one of us here on the council has a family member who's adept at lobbying, we don't have a line item in our budget for lobbying or promoting these. Do we have a report card on how effective what we've been doing is, or just what's the end game here?
That's a really good question. We've had discussions about lobbyists and hired lobbyists and so forth at the city council level, and There's never really been the support for the city to hire its own lobbyist. However, the city works very closely with the lobbyists at the municipal league. And really, the electric department has a strong lobbyist with the MPUA, which can touch on some of the gross receipts type issues. So I think that we have a presence. Could it be stronger? Certainly. But I don't know that the return on the investment of an individual municipality of the size of Kirkwood with a lobbyist that would be hired by us would have a remarkable return on investment. And that's just it's a difficult equation to work through, whether the city feels it's the time now to hire its own lobbyist firm for statewide type issues. The effectiveness of that is questionable because a lot of the interests are in the rural parts of the state. There's definitely a caucus that is very strong and controlling, that is based out of the rural part of the state, and urban areas have less and less say.
There is a St. Louis County has their own lobbyists. I'm wondering if we could, get some help from that person. St. Charles County has their own lobbyists. And I know that Chesterfield in the past has had a lobbyist. Maybe there's some kind of joint thing that we could do, or just ask St. Louis County if they're working on this issue at all.
I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, we can have that conversation. As Russ said, we did a few years ago before some of you were on, and it was decided not to go that route at the time, but that can be a conversation we have again soon.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on that particular recommendation? All right, then we're going to move to service fees. CFC does support a review of current service fee levels for opportunity to increase fees. They specifically mention non-transport ambulance fees and dynamic pricing in our fee structures at places such as the ice rink and PAC and things along those lines. So, the city does carefully monitor and analyze the fees, and we bring to City Council, the staff brings to City Council adjustments that we feel are appropriate for the services that are provided. And we do analyze these in comparison to competitors as well as comparators. And what I mean, there's a difference between a competitor and a comparator in some cases. A competitor is somebody who may have a similar function nearby and they pull the demand away from you. Whereas a comparator may be a city of similar size, but may not be nearby, but has similar type functions. So we look at places of similar size that, could be in St. Charles County, could be in St. Louis County as comparators. But our competitors, when I think of something like the ice rink pricing, which is one of the things that CFC identified, dynamic pricing, our competitors are Webster Groves. They're right next door. They have an ice rink. So is Creve Coeur. Those are your competitors, and the county to some extent with Queenie Park and so forth. There are multiple ice rinks around Brentwood that really you have to make sure that you're competitive in your pricing, and that's where we really strive to be competitive. We're open to City Council's thoughts on whether we should look to increase fees at this point in time. Immediately, staff has not recommended a fee increase for most of our service fee levels, but we're open to consideration, certainly. And I think CFC has made it clear that they feel that ambulance fees could be adjusted and so forth.
Right.
Russ, if I could, last year I asked you to have Murray come in and discuss the philosophy that we use for establishing fees. And one of the concerns that I have with the fee structure is not that it needs to be competitive. It is that I think we disadvantage our residents because for many of those activities that we have, they're group activities, and many and sometimes a majority of the participants are non-residents.
Mm-hmm.
So we are at the time we're creating financial barriers for certain members of our community to compete, while those same families are giving a financial boost to those non-residents who are coming in. And I know that for years the rink and other activities have resisted the idea of using a graduated system based on individual participants to set up those fees. But I think we're getting to a point now where ice time is in such demand, and I'm just concentrating on them because I know that's one I'm really familiar with, that we should really consider some means of having a graduated scale based on your residency.
I think we can look into that. I have no problem with looking into that aspect of it. I've talked with Kyle about that, we do have agreements with Glendale and Oakland where those need to fall. Our most recent agreements are really just a one-year extension because I think we need to evaluate where our residents fit within these agreements. So, and also outside those agreements, just in use of facilities and so forth, whether a non-resident should pay a higher charge and so forth. At the ice rink, non-residents do pay higher charges, but it's certainly something that we should look at.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm. We're ready to move on to grants.
Yeah, Russ, we probably are on page 4, so we probably need to kind of go through this, and we can make note of what the council can talk about during the budget session. So,
all right. So we'll just move forward. Management concurs with this recommendation that we monitor grants for infrastructure and public safety, and I think we've been very successful. Actually, I know we've been very successful in our grant applications and bringing in funding that otherwise would not be available were we not to apply for it through grants.
Russ, I asked about safe routes to school, an explanation about that. I don't know that we've gotten any safe route to school grant. I don't know, but
yes, we have.
Okay.
I'll give you a quick rundown. Safe Routes to School is a program that funded our sidewalk along Kirkwood Road from Big Bend to Knifer. That was a grant that we applied for, and we chose over we were approved for the Safe Routes to School grant and approved for the Argonne grant in the same cycle. East West Gateway indicated we could only implement one, and we chose the Safe Routes to School grant because it impacted disadvantaged community. It added sidewalks, which did not exist previously, down to Big Bend. It made it much safer. So we felt that was better than just enhancing Argonne, and that was a city council decision, and they chose the Safe Routes to School grant. So yes, we have applied for and received Safe Routes to School. Also, I've spoken with Mike Romay and Dr. Ulrich at Kirkwood District, and they are interested in perhaps helping to apply for another Safe Routes to School grant sometime in the future.
Great.
It's helpful to have the school district aboard.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. Mm-hmm. We're going to move on to the next one. We got to keep moving here. The CFC recommends, obviously, long-term contracts with surrounding communities. The city fully agrees and continues to analyze that. But we need to make sure that we have economies of scale with these agreements, and we do not put our citizens in any way at a lesser quality of service as a result of these agreements. We've been very successful with Oakland, Glendale, and De Pere in some public services contracts, and we look to expand on those possibilities.
Hey, Russ,
Mm-hmm.
has there ever been, I guess, any research into outsource, like providing sanitation to like surrounding municipalities, or is that like an incredibly hard market to get into?
We haven't really looked at outsourcing our sanitation operation because our sanitation operation is really right sized for our purposes. In order to outsource, we would have to add a huge amount of capacity. And I don't know that we could recover that investment in a reasonable time frame.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
The other issue on that, on outsourcing sanitation, keep in mind the St. Louis County has regulations, and most municipalities do not have a sanitation department. So in order for Kirkwood to outsource with the pair or something like that, that would have to go through a whole process with St. Louis County in how you award those contracts. So that gets very complicated.
That's what I figured, but I thought I'd ask anyhow. Okay, thanks guys.
All right, no problem. Just taking a look at fund balance here real quick. If you can move that down, Laurie, thank you. The CFC certainly recommends that we monitor our fund balances and contemplate other funding avenues before exhausting any fund balance. We agree 100%. We feel that we've done a very strong job of maintaining fund balances through some economic hardships and through some rather large projects that were necessary in the city. Our finance director is very strong with identifying alternative means of funding. And if we have to refund any bonds or things along those lines, we certainly work with our finance advisor on that and have been able to build fund balance year over year over year for a number of years. General fund as of February 10th, 2021 is at $11,418,000, which is 40% of 21 budgeted expenditures. So we do review this and are proud of our efforts on that. And we concur with their recommendation as well, CFC. That really covers number 7 as well. Police Fire Pension Fund, we are in discussions with council on exactly how to address the Police and Fire Pension Fund. We've discussed this for a number of years. We will say that in fiscal year 21, due to the transfer of funds from Prop P, $200,000, we're able to remain stable, and we feel we can remain stable with this fund in our projections for the next 2 fiscal years. So it's not as pressing as before we had Prop P. So we're satisfied there. CFC does recommend the annual revenue and fund balance information be provided to the CFC. No problem there. We concur, and we will provide that quarterly report to the CFC. Any questions on fund balance? All right. Let's move on to the next one here. Yeah, okay. The CFC recommends for street projects that we improve revenue streams, and the city is in full agreement of that. We have looked at bonding, we have looked at TDD, and CFC recommends that we consider the TDD as a viable option, and we agree it is a viable option, and we are currently exploring that. Also, they suggest that we consider in the Kirkwood Community Survey satisfaction with street infrastructure. Well, we have had satisfaction with street infrastructures in previous surveys, and we'll continue to do that because that allows us to monitor citizen satisfaction over time, and we feel that's very valuable.
How often do surveys go out?
On a bi-yearly basis, a biannual basis, so every 2 years. This year, this past year, we did not have it because of the COVID situation. We cut that. So in this case, it's going to be 3 years, the 3rd year, but we do have it in this year's budget to do the survey in May.
And does it go out to every citizen or just to?
It's a scientific representation sample. So it's scientifically valid sampling. But we do get the responses back based on geographical area, and we can parse some of the information.
And then, Liz, that will come to us before it goes out. So we'll see it and can go through it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to water. Lori, if you could just scan up, thank you. CFC identifies the fact that the city is in line with a 0.5% national average for water main replacement. The city agrees that, we'd like to do probably better than that and maybe work toward a 1% annual replacement goal in future budgets. So we don't disagree in any way there. The CFC does speak about reallocating the dividend that comes out of the water department for the street department for street infrastructure. We want to make sure that the water department can support the amount that it gives as a dividend, and we have year to year, and we will continue to do that. So that's where we stand on that. As far as unaccounted water recommendations, basically leak detection and return on investment of that. City has evaluated that, and cost benefit is a long-term issue on that. Basically, the repair costs identified through a leak detection program would be, to make the program really worthwhile, you would have a high level of repair costs that may not have as strong a benefit. So the city does continue to work toward reducing loss of water, but we have a good idea of where those leaks are occurring at times. And we do have a repair program that has been effective.
Is the detection some kind of software? And I'm asking because is there any opportunity of sharing with another city?
Bill Benson can answer that. There is a cost to the software, but I think the end result of the program is the repairs, and no other city is going to, well, I'll talk with Bill. I don't know that they'd want to pay for repairs in Kirkwood when it's our system.
Right.
No, yeah.
I don't know of any cost share that anybody outside of the city of Kirkwood that want to participate with us. Okay. But like Russ was saying, the number of leaks we have, the cost of to repair a leak is higher than what we're losing in revenue water right now. And this is an ongoing and long-term repair, because the age of our pipes, as we fix them, more breaks. Like right now we have 2 water line breaks going on right now. Okay, so the leak it's a long-term effort that we'll spend money on, but there's not a 1-to-1 ratio to where for every dollar you spend on leak detection, you spend $1 on repair. It's more like a 1-to-50 type ratio.
It seems to me it's been maybe 2 years, 3 years ago that we replaced all of our water mains in an effort to reduce lost water. Do we have any data on that? How have the new water mains helped this issue?
No, it actually, because of the number of leaks, it's had very little effect on our water loss. Okay, but that's part of the program. You have to continue on replacing mains, and we've only replaced, probably less than 7% of our mains in the last 10 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right too, because we're doing less than 1% a year.
Correct.
I think he may have been referring to meters, water meters, and not mains.
Oh, okay. No,
I'm sorry. Yeah, water meters.
Okay, we did replace our water meters, and we did not. There was not a substantial decrease in anything there. It was negligible. You could not see that because of the quantities of our leaks. And what we were looking for there in the water leaks, and the meters weren't leaks, but it was accuracy of the meters.
All right. Let's move on. Appreciate that. The CFC did make a recommendation that we study the feasibility of selling the water department. We can certainly study feasibility, but I would not support and do not concur with this recommendation. That's, if council wants to study it, they're certainly welcome to let us know they would like to study it. But, the department is a valuable asset to the city, not just in our independence, but as a revenue generator to support other operations. There's strong relevance right now with our independence when you look at Missouri American Water's current request to increase their rates. Kirkwood is not impacted by that request. We're not going to be increasing our rates as a result of that request. Our water is acquired through a contractual basis, and we have a number of years left on that contract. So we buy wholesale, and it's really not a direct impact whatsoever from Public Service Commission adjustment of Missouri American Water's retail rates, because we don't buy retail. Also, the water contributes $1.2 million annually to other operations of the city, and that would have to be made up by other enterprise funds. So if you were to eliminate one of our enterprise funds, the other ones have to pick up the slack in some way. Also, the water fund is very healthy. It's a very strong fund. We have a strong fund balance in that, and they're also a key factor in maintaining our bond rating overall. So let's move to, or any questions
Russ,
about that?
Yeah, I have a question, Russ. I see that you, I agree completely with everything that's in red. All right. Mm-hmm. I think the question, though, is fair, but it's hard to say whether we have complete information on this if we don't know what the value of what's the possible price we could get for the water department. I mean, it's a big difference if it's a $5 million asset or a $70 million asset. The higher it gets, the more we might be amenable to looking deeper into it. So okay. Is there a way to get a kind of a range, a back of the envelope value for such an enterprise?
Well, I think the best way to accomplish that is to approach the only entity that would be a buyer. I don't know of anybody else who would buy it. Maybe there are other entities out there who would be interested in a kind of a landlocked or surrounded water system surrounded by Missouri American Water, other than Missouri American Water, but I'm not aware of who that might be. But we could certainly approach Missouri American and see if they have interest in giving us an idea of how much they would pay.
I think we'll save that for another
yeah,
time.
I wouldn't. I was going to say I wouldn't do that now.
Right.
They're going to give you a low answer.
Right. All right. Let's move on, Russ.
Yeah. Sanitation recommendations. Really, the sanitation recommendations are. We concur with what CFC had to say. There's no. They mentioned citizen surveys, future rate increases. We're in agreement. Any questions about their recommendations there? All right, let's move on. Operational efficiencies, we were in full agreement that we need to evaluate operational efficiencies within the sanitation department, and we do continue to do that. Moving on to recreation, the ice rink. This builds on their recommendation previously that we consider market rates and an increase. Staff did concur that we could increase $10 in both categories of prime and non-prime ice time, $10 an hour, which would basically put us in line with our competitors, Brentwood, Creve Coeur, Webster Groves. That's really up to City Council. We haven't brought that to Council. It's not included in the budget, but we could do that. Talk at length with recreation management, and they feel that we could support that. So if council wants to follow up on that, we certainly could. And that's a recommendation of CFC. So
I think on some of this, Russ, what we'll do, we will have a budget, probably work session between, as we go through the budget. And I think a lot of the things mentioned here that, council wants to pursue, that would be the time that we can
yes,
talk to you about it. Yeah.
right. So the next dynamic pricing, that's probably a similar type discussion with council as well. We do have what we call dynamic pricing in the sense that we have prime and non-prime rates, but I think the CFC was looking to actually sell rates at different hours based on demand. So we'll move on to the Aquatic Center. We certainly utilize grants, and we work closely with the Municipal Parks and Recreation Grant Committee, and have allocated funds for repair of the Aquatic Center year to year. We have discussed already, Mr. Ward mentioned certainly the resident memberships and how that fits in with the usage of the outdoor pools and so forth. It's certainly a point of discussion that we can have with council. All right. Or any questions there on pools, Aquatic Center? All right. Performing Arts Center. We obviously, CFC feels we need to explore partnerships. We're in full agreement. Collaborations, public and private organizations, and we will continue to do that. CFC also recommends monitoring fund balance in the Recreation Department's 302 fund. We certainly do that, as we do all fund balances. And then the Electric Department. CFC is in favor of remaining circuit and LED street lighting upgrades. I believe that is in the budget, so we will continue to do that. They also recommend an analysis of near-term financial impact of capital investments, and we do track that. Currently, savings calculated to be $600,000 annually for the entire system as a result of savings associated with reduction of losses from the conversion from a 5 kV to a 12 kV system. Mark, do you have anything to add there? Do you feel that anything else?
Oh, no, you got it. We had a study. We monitor that, and we have specific dollar values associated with what we expect to save as we move forward.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I've got a question on that one, Russ.
Sure.
What's terribly unique about the electric department is it's the goose that lays the golden egg for us. And we have a history of not feeding that goose very well until it gets into a traumatic state. My point is this: the fund balance, the reserves that we're building now, I'd like to see an analysis of the expected date of replacement for our major infrastructure and electric department. So we can see when we look out in the future, and I don't know what the life expectancy of a substation is. Let's say it's 25 years. Almost all of those are going to come within a 6-year window of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unreasonable to expect that the reserves that we set aside right now would cover that.
So more a long-term financial analysis for capital.
Right.
And I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think Mark and I can work toward that, no doubt.
Well,
I just don't want us to be where we were about 15 years ago.
Understood. We certainly wouldn't want to be in a susceptible position at all.
we kind of have an idea of how much we've spent on substation replacement recently. So
Mm-hmm.
that will also hopefully help us get where we need to be, as well as bring the fund balance for electric back up to levels.
Absolutely. All right. I think that covers basically their recommendations, and appreciate Mark and all he does with the electric department. All right. It doesn't. Now we get into the fund balance. Sorry. The net cash position, we monitor that very closely. We know there has been some use of fund balance in the electric department, and we're monitoring to make sure that capital investments are sustainable. Obviously, the plan, and it has been shared numerous times over the years, is to invest in the capital now and build that fund balance when we've completed the circuit conversion. And that is the direction that we're heading. We're 1 year away from completion of the circuit conversion. Do you have anything to add there, Mark?
I know that's pretty much it. Now that we're coming to an end, I think we're going to see things change dramatically, and it's a good position to be in.
Yeah.
It really is.
It has to be understood, this was an intentional depletion of the fund balance. So,
Yeah, it's an intentional increase in capital spending
correct.
in order to bring the system up to the highest level it can be. All right, next item. PAC loan, I'm not sure what they're asking us to review. We know what the loan is, and we know what we're paying it back on. So I know that the department does believe that the capacity installed and energy consumption present at the PAC represents a positive return on the investment compared to a salt facility, which used to be there, which used zero energy. So we do understand that. So the next revenue and expense management. This deals with the portfolio and work with MUJMUC, which is the Missouri Joint Municipal Electric Utility Commission. We do monitor that. We use a consultant on that, GDS out of Atlanta. They do a great job for us. And our purchase power account over this past year has stayed within budget as expected. And of course, we do have a strong portfolio mix, and we're adding to that every day with the agreement for the Green Line wind power as well that will come on board somewhere around 24.
And what's the legislation that we need to continue? Is that a federal legislation?
Well, we have to monitor. No, it's local mostly. It's these lawsuits that are occurring from the farmers in North Missouri trying to fight the Clean Line program. And Mark can speak to other. I know there is some federal legislation, but I think you're going to find that a lot of what is coming forth may actually benefit Kirkwood Electric. I'll let Mark speak to that. Go ahead.
Well, no, Russ, you're absolutely right. I mean, the immediate threat is to try to block the project associated with our wind energy. There's also, as you alluded to in the beginning, Telecommunication Act activity, where there's some relief that the telecommunication companies are seeking to change pole attachment agreements, and embedded in those agreements are these changes in fees that we would receive, both locally and then, of course, federally. We have the same issues. We have the telecommunication issue where the FCC was being used to try to reduce the revenues that we would make for pole attachments. And of course, you also have some environmental issues that might be out there that you have to monitor. So, we use our APPA folks, our MPUA folks, and we work, state and local to try to play defense and protect the formula for our revenues and expenses so that there can be some things that aren't unpredictable to deal with. But again, that's just an ongoing situation.
Exactly. And I will say that, preemption at both the state and federal level, preemption of local authority over its own rights of way is a direct threat to what, revenues. It just is. And, these telecommunications, pole attachments issues, we own and control our right of way and should be able to rent that. And that's what these preemption things are trying to prevent. Basically, that if you want to set up a 5G, you can just stick it on any pole and we can't do a thing about it. That's some of the legislation that you hear at times. So that's of concern. Next one, please. Next page. Management concurs regarding labor utilization. Management concurs regarding dividend. We do have rate programs that we're analyzing currently, time of use rates. We're going to get through this economic situation that we're in right now before working to implement those, but there is a plan currently to work time of use rates into our system. And now we move on to public safety. Management agrees with the recommendation it's in the budget. Assuming council approves the budget, that will occur. So that's not an issue. It's included. Code enforcement. We do not see this recommendation as a financial issue. It's strictly an operational issue. As we understand, the unit was transferred to from public services because as a division of the police department, people were more compelled to address violations. When they're approached by somebody carrying a badge, it's a little different. So if council has feelings one way or another on that, I'm wide open to them. But currently, we feel the operation works well. There were discussions about police visibility. Again, these are non-financial. The police department utilizes virtually all of the recommendations of the CFC currently. So, in various levels of utilization. But we certainly, and Brian can chime in at any time, we certainly value their thoughts on this and look to innovate where we can. And that's where we are on operational issues. Anything you have to add there, Brian?
You said pretty much it. We implement all that, but we're always looking for new ideas. So
we appreciate that. That's right. Citizen survey. We already have question 5.1 and 5.2 regarding level of satisfaction of police in different types of situations in neighborhoods, retail areas, and so forth. So we intend to continue with that. So, again, management concurs. The community service officer position is an important position in the city. We do agree that we need to continue that position. We do not have interest at this point in making that a civilian position. I know that's one of the recommendations comes a little later here, but I'm just going to touch on it right now. We feel that that position works better as a full commissioned police officer, not a civilian. We've talked about camera programs. There are certainly cost result considerations as well as privacy aspects that need to be looked into. Service contracts. The CFC recommended that department and staff brief CFC members before the next budget cycle on formulas and methodologies, and we will do that. And the appropriate department head be involved certainly in the formation of these agreements, which has been and will continue to be. They're involved in the conceptualization, data analysis, and design of municipal service contracts when we propose those.
Russ, they suggested that the finance director be included in that. I didn't see that in the response.
The finance director is involved all the time.
Okay.
So, yeah. Cost benefit for communications and records unit. This is basically the dispatch and so forth. It would require further analysis. The next one is about civilians and converting police positions to civilian positions, where the chief himself does not support replacing current officers with civilians at this point. Finance director certainly is assisting all the departments in their budgeting, and there are certain charges that impact departments that are overseen by finance, and in the police department there will be coordination with the command staff. We agree that these need to be clearly understood by the department heads. Touch on performance-based budgeting. The Kirkwood Police Department has been upgrading its key performance indicators and measures of effectiveness. And the city has been doing a transitional implementation of this type of budgeting through appropriate departments, the first being the Recreation Department. But as we look at the factors specific to the police department, the CFC and management diverge a little bit. We are not convinced of the benefit of converting the police department to a performance or program-based budgeting system. The more we delve into it, we feel that identifying key performance indicators and measures of effectiveness are, and making sure we collect those and analyze those, it's better to consider those results strategically rather than tying specific programs to program funding to those indicators. And the reason is, and hear me out here, is police programs don't necessarily have immediate measurable returns as they would in the recreation department. We have direct participation and things along those lines. And often when you do have immediate measurable returns, it's because of things like a crackdown on speeding or pulling people over. Those are not necessarily what we want in our police department, I don't believe, unless council directs otherwise. We need to look at long-term implications of decisions. Community policing is case in point. It doesn't bring revenue directly or immediate measurable change, but in the long run can be effective in establishing positive community relationships and communication with the department of its citizens. And this goes to some of the Human Rights Commission's efforts. They work closely with the police department. I am not convinced currently that we need to move the police department to performance-based budgeting. So that's where we stand as an administration currently. The next suggestion is really a nomenclature change. That's up to council at any time. And we're in fire department now too. That was regarding fire department nomenclature. Transition of fire department to PBB, maybe more appropriate in the fire department. Again, we have to get down into the nitty gritty of key statistics, and the way to get to that is through our new ERP, which will be implemented most likely in FY24. We have to get through this economic downturn before we can really propose to City Council a $1.5 million new ERP. So we're going to hold on that. And coincidentally, the fire department budgeting is PBB. False alarms, we don't favor at this point implementing a false alarm penalty. They're a very insignificant, small portion of the experience call volume. At this point, we don't feel it warrants it.
In
Yes,
dollar amount, what does that 8% represent, would you say? Or do you know?
Oh, I don't have that number in front of me right now. I can get that if you have that question specifically. We can get that number for you. I mean, when you say in dollar amount, what does the 8% represent?
Also,
If we were to, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. if we were to implement a fee for it?
No, I mean, what is the actual cost to the city for these false alarms? We've got apparently 8% of the calls that come in are false alarms, and what dollar amount is that?
Jim, do you have anything on that?
It would be very hard to cut it down to a call basis. It'd be minuscule, not minuscule, but you know, our people are already on duty, so you're not calling them in. It would really be fuel usage and, you know, fuel usage and possible depreciation of the equipment, which we run close to 48 to 5,000. We'll be close to 5,000 calls. So you really have to break it down. But keep in mind too that the 8% is, you know, the first time typically you would give a warning first. So you would already cut some of that out of that. So we're talking about repetitive type of calls.
Okay.
Sounds like it's not that costly.
That we didn't feel it was.
Yeah, the
All
only
right.
thing it might be to have a fee is just to deter future false calls. But again, that may or may not work either.
All right. Also, just as an example, most municipal departments do not have that fee currently. Emergency services fee. Yeah, I'll let Chief just cover this quickly if you'd like.
I'm sorry. The proposal was if we go to Glendale or a contracted area and we have a no transport and we don't use any equipment or use an ALS service, then really that trip was free. The proposal was to charge for that type of call. However, through Medicare, you can't pick and choose who you're going to charge and who you're not. So if that was the case in Glendale, Oakland, it would also have to be the case in Kirkwood. And we felt that that wasn't a very good move for our citizens at this point.
Yeah, it would be a new fee on our citizens. All right. Ladder tower, we're monitoring the condition of the ladder tower, and right now it's budgeted for replacement in 26. Municipal service contracts, we already discussed that with police. Yes, we're certainly monitoring emergency reporting and using reporting software and extrapolating our emergency response in these other jurisdictions. So we're going to move on. I know we're running short on time because we've got another item here before 7 o'clock. Management concurs with both administrative suggestions regarding employee premiums and health and well-being, as well as workers' compensation. Full agreement. They have good ideas there, and we agree with them. Pension fund balance, we discussed that previously. And the conclusion, we do appreciate the efforts of the CFC, and it's been a good process this year that I think will be beneficial as we adopt the budget. And I think it's good to speak with council in this way to hopefully clarify where administration stands and with regard to these CFC recommendations.
Thank you, Russ. And I think this is very, very helpful, first to the Citizen Finance Committee so they can more immediately see what some of the thoughts are. Now going forward, now it'll be up to the council to look at this as well. So I recommend to the council if there's anything specific in the CFC report or the comments or observations from administration, let Russ know so we can have those included in our discussions in March on the budget. So thank you very much, Russ, and all the department heads who are on. Thank you. All right, now we need to move on to our next item. We'll have to kind of go through it quickly, having to do with the MoDOT South Kirkwood Road project. So Russ, you want to start
Yeah.
off, or Bill? We can.
I'll just introduce this real quick and send it over to Bill, that this is a project that MoDOT has identified to resurface Kirkwood Road, basically from the railroad tracks to the city limits. It goes beyond the city limits into Sunset Hills, but for our purposes, we're concerned with the area between the BNSF Railroad and the city limits at Kirkwood Commons. And staff has identified some aspects of need in the city, or consideration anyway in the city limits, that that MoDOT was not including in their resurfacing project. So similar to the Manchester Road project, we felt it was appropriate to bring to City Council the recommendation of staff on an aspect here that could be beneficial to all users of the road. So Bill, go ahead.
Thanks, Russ. Yeah, as you know, the MoDOT's putting out a project, and this is really when I looked at was part of the virtual meeting last week when they had it, and then Chris, I, and Jonathan met with MoDOT yesterday to discuss the project also. This is strictly for MoDOT. This is a mill and overlay project, ADA improvements with improvements to also installing a 6-foot wide continuous sidewalk from Big Bend all the way down to 44 on both sides of the road. They're not looking, even in their advertisements, looking at doing any bicycle improvements whatsoever on the road. We did discuss that with them because of the St. Louis County bike plan shows separated bike lanes north and south there, but they are not included in this project. They are including enhanced pedestrian signals at 44 and at the Kirkwood Commons entrance up there. So that's the basis of the program right now. We looked at some of the things and talked to them about, any additional improvements, and that's what we want to talk to the City Council about. Is, do we want to take a look at doing any type of pedestrian lighting? Do we want to take a look at doing any enhancing bus shelters? Do we want to look at doing a PHB down by the, through Vision Zero, we identified multiple pedestrian incidences down there at by the bus shelters, just by the Vianney's entrance down there. So those are things that we talked to MoDOT about. I will say they're on a very fast schedule. They're looking at starting right-of-way acquisition this spring and being in construction late next year. Okay, so it's a very aggressive schedule that they have on their hands. So even for us, if we wanted to participate in this in a 50-50 cost share, we would have to have an application by April 1st to get it. Okay, there is no opportunities on this project to fund through an STP, because this project will probably be bid out and under construction before our next STP round of funding. So that's really what we're talking about. We have talked about the PHB down by the bus station, or by the bus shelters down south. We do show accidents there. They didn't say yay or nay about it, but it seems like we're not going to get a whole lot of improvements out of them unless we move very fast, and we have a very short time to do that. And we even talked about that in their communications with us, because they briefly mentioned this to us in a meeting about a year ago, and never contacted us back, and didn't communicate very well as far as the project. So it showed up on our doorstep, 2 weeks ago, basically. But we've reviewed the plans. One of the biggest benefits of the whole project is the continuous sidewalk all the way down on both sides is probably the biggest benefit. So if we want to do any enhanced pedestrian crossings, we have to enter into an agreement with MoDOT on those, because this is something new that they introduced to us also, that if we want continental sidewalks, then we have to enter into a maintenance agreement with MoDOT to where we're responsible for the maintenance of those continental sidewalks and the restriping of them and things of that nature. So, so that's where we are, and I really want to open it up for discussion to see how we want to pursue this. We've already talked to the design engineers. They've been working on this for quite some time, the preliminary plan. And if we can add anything, there's going to be cost involved, and our only cost savings opportunity is by April 1st to do a 50-50 application with MoDOT if they would even approve that application.
Bill, before we go to the roundtable with council, I just want to clarify the PHB that's being proposed includes a pedestrian refuge island in the middle.
Correct.
And you had indicated, I think, that it would run somewhere in the $300,000 range. Is that correct?
It's
400.
Right, because we take a look at our other one that we have further north. That was about 175 that we have at the North Kirkwood Road, North Kirkwood Road. So on here with the refuge islands, it may be a little bit more to do to get that out, because we want to build a refuge island in the middle and probably entice them to put bump outs on both sides of the road to narrow down that crossing distance. And this PHB would not control the whole length of the crossing. Because of it's a split highway like that, you want your PHB to get you to the refuge island and then press another button to get you further across, okay?
Yeah.
So you don't have to have it all the way across. So there's some constructability issues, but there's a possibility there also.
And hypothetically, if we were to receive the 50% cost share, then we'd be looking at about $200,000 out of our budget, somewhere in that range, correct?
Right. It's in rough numbers, yes.
Yes, rough numbers. That's all I can give.
Because we have to get design, and we have to pay for the design and the construction and things of that nature. Yes.
Yep. All right. I just wanted to make that clear before council had their discussion.
As far as
hold on, Liz. Russ, what specific action do you need tonight from council so we can couch questions and comments on that?
My understanding is that MoDOT requires the city's, it's not a full-term participation agreement, but it's an understanding of what we want from them on the 28th, which is 1 week away or somewhere in that range. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, we need to have something so we can start working. Our hard date is the April 1st. If we want to do a cost participation, we have to do something by April 1st. So we have to move quickly to get the design engineer on board, get a proposal from him or them, and then move forward. Okay, because
your meeting yesterday was in lieu of what we needed to submit by the 28th, you believe?
Right. The other option here is that if the city council just wants to put a resolution together to send to MoDOT to see what they'll do about it. Okay. I mean, that's the strongest thing. But you know, that's where we are. If we want to get a resolution put together and send it to MoDOT as the city's official action saying we want these things, then
and we're willing to pay for them.
And we're willing to pay for them because they're not going to put these improvements in at their cost. There's that meeting, they clearly showed that, I think.
Right.
So in terms, I know, Russ, we talked the other day, so there's not a drop dead deadline now. So we can talk about this tonight, and a resolution, Bill, if we were to do something, would be what, at our next meeting, March 4th or whatever that is? This has got to be before April 1st, correct?
Well, we have to have, it's what it is that if April 1st is a due date, we have to, if we're going to cost share, we have to have that application to MoDOT by April 1st. Okay. And
so it helps to know.
Right. And there's a lot of things that happen before that because MoDOT they have to agree with us. Okay. And we have to provide some design and some cost estimates on that project, that also. So we would have to be moving very quickly in the next week or two.
Okay, all right. Well, here's my thought on this. You know, let's go through some questions, but and Russ, tell me if Bill, if this won't work. We've got a work session next Thursday, a special one. One of the items we're going to talk about is bike lanes. And Liz has brought that up. So this would probably be a good in affordable housing. Two things Karen and Liz have brought up. So this might be a good time to, you know, finalize what council wants to do on this. So why don't we get some general input tonight, and then based on that, Bill, you can put together what needs to be done, and we can, you know, discuss it in much more length next Thursday. So
okay,
I think that would work.
Yeah, good. Liz, you started to say something earlier. I'll let you go
Well,
first.
the bus shelters, is there anything, can Metro partner with us on bus shelters? That just seems like it's in their
well,
corner.
what I can tell you on the Manchester Road project, we're paying for those bus shelters. Okay. That was part of our application, was to install better bus shelters, and developing a partnership with Metro between now and April 1 to do that is probably very difficult.
Right. What are continental sidewalks? I'm not familiar.
That's the ladder type sidewalks that have the
Crosswalks.
the crosswalks, the bold ones. All
Yeah.
MoDOT will do is it's the single stripes across the road.
I really do like those continental sidewalk or crosswalks. They're so much more visible.
Yes, they are.
That's all I have.
All right. Other council comments or questions for tonight? Kara?
Yeah, I know when we went through some of the crash data in the Vision Zero subcommittee like 15 million years ago, this stretch had a lot of pedestrian and car crashes. And so I was curious, when we're talking about putting this, you know, mid-cross blocking pedestrian hybrid beacon, whatever, what area are we looking at exactly?
Well, we're looking really close to the entrance of where Vianney's entrance is.
Okay.
On South Kirkwood Road, or in South Lindbergh, and right by the Marinist facility down there. Right in that area, there's two bus shelters that are almost directly across the street from each other.
So it is by the bus shelters. Okay, because I figured there was probably a correlation there. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that's really the only question I had. I think more lights and better bus stop is kind of worth us stepping up for, but I'll let other people ask questions. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else with questions or comments right now? Well,
Well, let me say first, let me express my disappointment that CO Haas and Bill were in a meeting over a year ago when the director of MoDOT recommended that we begin having conversations. And in my mind, we got at least 3 partners down there that we should be having conversations with. Sunset Hills, Vianney. If you've ever been by there when the school is letting out or are convening, you know, it's a nightmare with student traffic in there. The Lutherans who have their main headquarters right there. And then MoDOT. And we haven't explored any of those. And yet here we are saying, well, you know, you got the bomb goes off tomorrow. The fuse is lit. You know, it's disappointing that when we have these big projects that need a lot of time and consideration in order to get the most that we can get out of them, we still keep forgetting that, you know, Christmas is on the 25th. And we do all of our shopping on the 24th and say, well, we don't have time to get more gifts. That's unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. But that having been said, to me, we do need to have, and as Liz alluded, explore a partnership with Metro for some of the facilities down there. I mean, if we don't ask for it, we'll certainly never know what we can get, whether there'll be a yes or a no or a partial. So we need to do that because of several things, because of the nature of the income that people who live in that end of town, southeast end of Kirkwood, and because of the employees who work in Kirkwood Commons there, and across the street in the other one, the Hobby Lobby area. There's a heck of a lot of pedestrian traffic generated from bus travel, and we've not paid any attention to it. And I think we need to make a serious effort with our Safe Streets Committee to do the best we can down there to improve those circumstances. It benefits all of us. And in terms of an agreement potential with Sunset Hills, it wouldn't hurt us to beautify that end of town and the entrance to the community. Other municipalities have managed to do it, and I don't see why Kirkwood not. If it becomes a financial burden, then so be it. But if we don't ever explore it, if we don't ever ask the question, then we won't know. That's it for me.
Bob, you had your hand up, I thought.
I really have a few questions, I guess, that helps the focus for me going forward. So essentially, I heard potential for a mid-block crossing down by Vianney. I guess some input we would have on the crossing there at what they call, the roads appear to be called Kirkwood Commons, where they cross. And there's already lights there, but we're talking about pedestrians. And then moving on to Big Bend, that's already redone, right? As far as the pedestrian crossings.
Mhm.
We aren't talking about really redoing those, right?
No.
Correct.
No.
So my final question is is there a potential, since the shaded area goes all the way down to the railroad tracks, for some sort of crossing there? I'm just thinking that might be a good place, since it's already an alert kind of area for drivers. They're heading toward railroad tracks. And if you had something on the north side that allowed people to cross there. But whether or not that's in consideration or even possible, is that kind of and the bus stops, are those the things that are to be focused on going forward? One mid-walk bus stops, a mid-block crossing, and potential input on the crossing there with the roads that are called Kirkwood Commons.
That's what I have on my list right now. From what I heard, is the bus stops, the mid-block crossing, and the continental crosswalks.
Okay. All right, good. I mean, then I know what to focus on as I study the issue. I don't know. Do you have an immediate rejection of a crossing there nearer to the railroad tracks, or does that make sense to anybody?
I would say anything between the railroads and Big Bend is probably not would not work properly. You typically want to have at least be 300 feet away from any crosswalk, and we may be, and then that short distance, because of the intersection and the railroad tracks, we're probably creating an unsafe condition, possibly with another mid-block in that area.
Okay, that's fine. I know what to look at. Thank you.
All right, anything else from council on this, knowing we're going to talk about this again next Thursday?
Yeah. Oh, just one other thing. We have a soft barrier between the railroad tracks and say the entrance to Doc's Harley Davidson. Maybe we should look at that because of how it affects traffic flow in and out of the residential area to the east there. I can't think of the street right now that it's across from.
You're about Commerce, Prospect?
Yeah,
Chester,
Prospect.
no.
Yeah,
Prospect, Milwaukee.
No, it's Chester.
Okay.
Longer term, I expect that there's going
Prospect,
to be.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think there'll be more redevelopment down there, and to the extent that that barrier restricts it or impedes it, I think we ought to at least look at it.
All right. All right. Anything else on this? We will again look at this again next Thursday at our work session. So anything else this evening? All right. Seeing nothing, this meeting is adjourned, and ask everyone to quickly turn around to get on board for our
This
regular
is
meeting.
every
Thank
step
you.
in the process of developing a vaccine. From development in the lab, testing, approval, manufacturing, all the way to getting it to millions of people. But arguably, the most important part is here, in the human trials, where the vaccine is tested on real people in 3 main phases, starting with just a small group of people and ultimately testing a group of thousands. This is where scientists confirm the effectiveness and safety of the vaccine on a large scale. Before that, scientists scrutinize its effectiveness. But before any of that, a vaccine first has to pass this crucial phase, where scientists study the side effects.
In a trial, you call it adverse events, but that's kind of overstating it.
Dr. Kirsten Lake led a phase 1 trial for the COVID-19 vaccine made by Pfizer and BioNTech. She says side effects are a possibility with any vaccine.
In general, it's nothing to fear. It's our own immune systems kicking in and doing what it's supposed to do.
The most common flu vaccine this year, for example, comes with a chance for many normal side effects: pain, fatigue, headaches. But many of the new COVID-19 vaccines are more likely to cause these kinds of side effects than you might be used to, particularly after the second dose. Most people will feel a little pain in their arm. Many will be tired and get headaches.
I mean, obviously, having no side effects is desirable, but I think with the spike protein of the coronavirus, it really does elicit some side effects.
But that's totally normal. And once you understand why vaccine side effects happen, you might actually be happy to get them. First, we have to talk about this, your immune system, which is a huge network of different cells and proteins in your body. You've got things like white blood cells that fight the invading virus or bacteria, communication cells that organize the response, and antibodies that search for and identify the enemy. When, say, a virus attacks your body, your immune system attacks back. Your body increases blood flow to get more of these battle cells in circulation. Your temperature might go up too, as one of the tactics your body has to help kill the invaders. And after your white blood cells destroy the virus, they produce antibodies that will identify the virus should it reappear in the future, and remember how to fight it. They're how you gain immunity. This response is actually what gives you a lot of the symptoms you feel when you catch, for example, the common cold. But the cold virus doesn't give you a fever or a runny nose or body aches. Your immune system does while fighting the virus. And triggering this system without actually getting you sick is how vaccines work. Most vaccines are made up of a weakened or dead pathogen, or a portion of one, or in some of the new COVID-19 vaccines, the genetic code of a portion of one, either in the form of DNA or what's called messenger RNA, along with minor ingredients to keep it stable. It's harmless, but when your immune system detects it, it responds just like it's a real danger. It attacks the intruder and creates these memory antibodies to be able to fight it again in the future. Vaccines are designed to give you the same immunity as if you had fought off the real virus, and some of the new COVID-19 ones do this particularly well.
Messenger RNA vaccines are quite good at stimulating your immune system. That's why you have 95% efficacy.
That's right, a 95% chance of being protected against COVID-19. That makes them some of the most effective vaccines. But that also means they're really good at activating your immune system, which means your body will increase blood flow to where the vaccine is, which is why pain at the injection site is so common. Your body might even think, better turn up the heat, and then you get a fever or the chills. So experts emphasize that we should look at most side effects as a good thing. It means the vaccine is working.
I have a friend actually who participated in one of the Pfizer trials, early trials. And, so he could have gotten either placebo or vaccine. After the second dose, the next day he woke up and he was sort of fatigued and he had low-grade fever, and he looked at his wife and said, "Yes, I got the vaccine." See, that's the right attitude.
When we talk about these common reactions to vaccines, like fever and fatigue, we're mostly talking about the mild to moderate ones. These are the lowest of the side effect categories that health regulators use, the kind you get over in a day or two. Then there's severe side effects, the type that might make you call in sick to work or call a doctor. These were rare in the clinical trials for the first 2 studied vaccines to become available, with the exception of some severe fatigue and muscle pain on the second dose. And that's because if these vaccines were dangerous, they'd never reach the public in the first place.
We really don't accept any sort of permanent serious harm from a vaccine, and nor should we.
News stories that imply otherwise can be scary, but they get more attention than they probably deserve, like this one about a serious allergic reaction in someone with a history of serious allergic reactions, or this one about someone dying after getting a second dose of the vaccine, when it turned out other factors had caused his death. In fact, no deaths have been reported from the millions of doses that have been given out. And the controlled studies with thousands of people found the same thing: no deaths from the vaccine. But maybe more importantly, the studies also recorded 0 deaths from COVID-19 and 0 hospitalizations from COVID-19. These vaccines aren't just safe, they're lifesavers.
You should be skeptical of anything you put in your body, including vaccines. But once you've seen the data and you see that there wasn't a serious side effect before approval and hasn't been a serious side effect post-approval, then I think you should be convinced.
Basically, you want to reduce where the virus can go. And if you immunize as many people as possible, that pool of people that it can transmit to becomes less and less and less and less.
Vaccines are the way out of the COVID-19 pandemic. And like with all vaccines, many of us who get it will also feel a little meh for a day or two. But the scientists who have studied these vaccines, who have seen the side effects, are some of the most eager to get it.
I couldn't wait to get this vaccine. Are you kidding me? I mean, 2 doses of vaccine gives me a 95% chance of being protected.
We would be the first ones to not want to take it if we felt it was unsafe, right? So take it from your friendly vaccine person.
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kara. A roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Wertz,
Here.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Here.
Councilmember Sears,
Here.
Councilmember Dewey,
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Hessel, as you often do now, do you mind making a statement for the minutes about the Sunshine Law and us meeting remotely?
I will. I wish I didn't have to, but I will. As the announcement of the meeting reflects, Section 610.015 of the Missouri Sunshine Law provides that members of the City Council who are not physically present in the council chambers can participate and vote on all matters when an emergency exists, and the nature of the emergency is stated in the minutes. So we would ask the minutes to reflect that unfortunately we are still in this pandemic, COVID-19, and the City Council is meeting remotely for their own safety as well as safety of the general public.
Very good. Thank you, John. I want to make a few recognitions tonight. First of all, due to the weather we've had, the snow and the cold, we have got a dedicated group of city employees who have just done incredible work. Street department with snow removal, our electric department with outages, water department with water main breaks, sanitation department out there picking up the carts. It's just and I hope I haven't missed. If I have missed anyone, I apologize. But just to see them out there just working away, weather, just disregarding the weather is just incredible. And for us, just let everyone know that on behalf of the council, we just appreciate the work that the hard work that they do to serve the citizens of Kirkwood. And sometimes, it's sometimes not with all appreciation. I know we all get calls and emails about snow, streets not being plowed or not being plowed well enough, whatever it is. But just know that, we and the city, most of the citizens, if not all, appreciate all they do. So thank you. Thanks. And please let them know that. And there's another recognition that I want to make. Our city attorney, John Hessel, has been recognized for, I think, the eighth time in the last 11 years by Best Lawyers as the Lawyer of the Year for litigation in the St. Louis metropolitan area. I know this is selected by peer reviews, John, and just so you know, we've told you before, we are so fortunate to have you as our legal counsel, and there's no award or recognition that's better received than those from our peers. People who do what you do think, again, that you're the best at what you do in the area. So congratulations, and thank you on behalf of all of us.
Thank you.
All right. Now we move on to public hearings. We have two public hearings tonight. The first is public hearing for the City of Kirkwood 2021-2022 budget. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. I would offer as Exhibit 1 an affidavit of publication verifying that notice of this public hearing appeared in the St. Louis County. And I'd also note that as part of the notice, there was a summary of the proposed operating and capital budgets. Exhibit 2 is an affidavit of publication, again, verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. And again, the summary appeared in that notice. And Exhibit 3 is Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Thank you, John. Russ, who will present this to the council?
That'll be Director of Finance, Sandy Stevens.
Welcome, Sandy.
Welcome. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Mr. Haas, and residents of Kirkwood. The proposed fiscal 21-22 budget presented tonight is in balance in accordance with Missouri state statute. A copy of the proposed fiscal 21-22 budget is also available on the city website on the finance page for all residents to view. Our budget process began in July with our department directors and managers preparing the 5-year capital plan under the supervision of Mr. Haas. Followed by that, the city departments prepared the first draft of the operating budget request in late August. This first draft went over several revisions within the next 5 months and edits before becoming the proposed budget presented tonight. As part of the budget process during this time, the Citizens Finance Committee was given the first draft, and the committee reviewed strategic areas of the proposed budget and met weekly with various departments, directors during the months of September and December. In a work session on January 21st, the committee presented their formal report to council. The fiscal 21-22 proposed budget includes anticipated income reserves available to fund the total citywide appropriation request of $90,359,000, with the general fund and the electric fund comprising 31% and 35% of this total respectively. In light of the COVID pandemic and the economic uncertainty, the general fund revenue budget request is conservative and has been reduced by $330,000 compared to the current fiscal year's budget. The general fund provides funding for all general city services, which include our public safety, police, and fire. In addition, the fiscal 21-22 budget projects grant revenues in the amount of $1,213,000 for various street improvement projects. The Public Works Department, under the direction of Bill Bensing, is doing a tremendous job in securing federal and state grants that typically cover 80% of the major infrastructure improvements. The proposed budget also includes an appropriation in the amount of $2,554,000 for lease payments on various leases. Finally, the proposed budget includes a request to reappropriate $9,543,000 for previously approved projects that will be incomplete as of March 31st, 2021. And I'd also like to acknowledge our Finance Committee, which was a vital process in bringing this final product to council. Our committee members, Bob Feiner, Chair, Kelly Mulholland, Co-Chair, Matt Beery, Gil Kleineck, Hunter Martinaire, Jim Morey, Al Reinecker, and Larry Watson. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate that. Council, this is the first, budget public hearing, and we will have, discussions on it, and first, second reading in March, plus probably a work session to go over things. So are there any questions of Sandy on the budget?
Not at this point.
Councilmember Sears.
Yeah, I have a question, but I'm not sure it's Sandy or someone else, but I think someone here will have the answer. One of the things that stands out is the reappropriations amount, and I just am curious about that. There are two projects, Geyer Road Phase 1 and Manchester Phase 1 construction projects that make up that each have a significant amount carried over. And just wondered, I'm curious about the status of those two projects and what it was that caused them to be in this year rather than as appropriated.
Whoever wants that one, Sandy, Russ.
I'm I'm not sure that I'm the one to answer that.
Right,
One.
I think Russ is getting on.
I'm thinking Bill Benson probably be the best because he's familiar with the ins and outs of the specifics of the projects, but I know weather played a role. I know approval of MoDOT played a role, and they were slow in getting approval on the Geyer project. So Bill can touch base on this.
Right, that's exactly right on the Geyer Road project. There was a 6-month delay through MoDOT's review process that put this project behind schedule. So, and then what we ran into now was the weather. As you know, we completed all the concrete work on that project, and now all we have is the mill and overlay, which once we get to the mill and overlay, you're talking about, you know, a month process to have that completed. Okay. On the Manchester Road, that's strictly under MoDOT's guidance. We're waiting for them to let that project that was supposed to be let in January, and they pushed it because of funding, and now they've pushed it to April. They say they may let it, but we hear now that they may push that project again. So basically, that money, that's our funding. Once they get the project under contract, we will literally just cut them a check for that amount of money as our participation cost.
Thanks a lot. I get a lot of questions about, especially South Geyer as kind of one of the last pieces of our big puzzle. So it's good to have a way to respond to folks who are concerned about those delays.
Thank you. Any other council questions on the budget? Councilmember Gibbons.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, this is a little bit off of the budget, but just since the Geyer Road project is delayed and we've had the sign out there for quite a while, and we've had quite a bit of snow, and do you think it would be okay to remove that sign now? I think the citizens know that it's going to start back up.
We can look into that. Yes, we can look into that, see if we can find a place for them to store it.
All right. Anything else? Councilmember Ward.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to comment and compliment Sandy. You know, I'm the liaison to the Citizens Finance Committee, and Sandy is in the trenches with these numbers 24/7, which has got to be mind-numbing. And she also does a lot of dental work, because I know, and she'll never admit, that there's a lot of teeth pulling to get these numbers from department heads and directors. So I just want to thank her for the great job that she's done.
Thank you for that. Thank you. All right. Do we have anyone wishing to speak on the budget public hearing? I assume that means no hands.
There are no hands at this time.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, David. All right. Any other council questions? All right. With that, this public hearing is closed, and this item will be on our new business agenda for our next meeting, which is March 4th. All right. We'll go to our second public hearing, which is public hearing for the Downtown Special Business District 2021-2022 budget. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. I'd offer as Exhibit 1 the affidavit of publication verifying that notice of this public hearing appeared in St. Louis County. And again, as part of the notice, there was a summary of the proposed Special Business District operating budget for the fiscal year. Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication verifying that the notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. And again, there was a summary of the proposed Special Business District operating budget contained within that notice. The Exhibit 3 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Thank you, John. Mr. Hawes, who will present this to the council?
That'll be Director of Finance, Sandy Stevens again.
All right.
Good evening again. The proposed Special Business District Fiscal 21-22 budget presented tonight is in balance in accordance with Missouri State statute. A copy of the proposed fiscal 21-22 budget is also available on the city's website on the finance page for all residents to review. The Special Business District Advisory Commission approved the proposed budget during a meeting on January 20th, 2021. The proposed budget has been prepared so that the SBD goals found in their mission statement and vision statement can be achieved. The Special Business District's mission is to promote business and support the community through cultural, social, and economic opportunities that benefit their membership. The district's vision statement is to be the most vibrant regional destination for shopping, dining, living, and working. The last 12 months and the effect of the pandemic on the Special Business District revenue has been difficult to predict. The budget for the fiscal 22 year is similar to that of the current fiscal year 21. The SBD will not spend all the budgeted appropriations for the current fiscal year 21, and depending on how recovery from the pandemic proceeds, will continue to be judicious in discretionary spending in order to maintain a balance, knowing that there could potentially reduce revenues from business licenses. At the same time, the Special Business District will be financially prepared to support expenses for special events, advertising, and other activities that will support the downtown Kirkwood businesses. The proposed budget for fiscal 21-22 anticipates revenues of $363,900 and expenditures of the same amount. The budget includes a slight increase in the Special Business District's facade improvement program because of the high demand for funds in the current fiscal year 21. In 2020, the SBD had an exceptional farmers market season. However, the revenues projections are conservative for the proposed fiscal 21-22 budget because of the economic uncertainty. And a sample of the planned SBD special events for the upcoming year 21-22 include, but not limited to, a return of the summer concert series, and then the Kirkwood, Missouri 66 cars and guitars with a special edition being explored to handle the COVID restrictions. And the shop small all season long. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sandy. Do we have any questions on the SBD budget from council? All right. Seeing no questions from council, do we have anyone wishing to speak at this public hearing, David?
Mayor and council, I show no hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you very much. All right. Assuming no more council questions, this public hearing is closed and this item will have its first reading on March 4th. Thank you, Sandy. All right, now we'll go to public comments.
Yes, the public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the city council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the city council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the city council, to the chief administrative officer, or city clerk if action is needed. If there's anyone wishing to make a public comment, if you'd please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Do we have anyone wishing to speak, David?
Council, I show no hands raised at this time or comment.
Great. All right. Thank you very much. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments on the consent agenda? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right. Consent agenda passes. We move on to unfinished business, Bill 10864.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance reappropriating $281,515 from the Capital Improvement Fund balance to the streets account, project number PW 2005, for the Quan Avenue reconstruction.
Are there any questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
All right, bill passes. Bill 10864.
I actually read you 864. You called
I-
for that previously.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
my-
can go
that is
back
my-
to 63.
That is my mistake. I picked it
Wondered
up.
what was going on.
Let's go back to, 10863. Sorry about that. I just realized that.
No problem, Mayor. Mayor and Council, this is a bill, an ordinance appropriating $179,036 from the Capital Improvement Fund fund balance to the streets account. Projects number PW 2005 and number PW 2105 for a raised intersection at the intersection of Guyer Road, Doherty Ferry, and Peak Avenue.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call on 10863.
All right, Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
I will vote yes, although I believe we might want to censure the mayor for that discretion.
How about impeach and remove?
No, no, no,
You wish.
no.
All right, bill passes. Bill 10865.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance appropriating donations received from the Shaughnessy Family Foundation for the Kirkwood Performing Arts Center in the amount of $10,000 to the sponsorship grants account, and then appropriating $10,000 from the sponsorship grants account to the other professional services account.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Bill passes. Bill 10866 as amended.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance amending and readopting the provisions of Chapter 2, Article 7, Divisions 3 and 9, Chapter 5, Article 2, and Appendices A and B, hereinafter Chapter 25 of the City of Kirkwood General Code of Ordinances.
Do you have any questions or comments on this bill? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
All right, bill passes. Bill new business, I'm sorry, Bill 10867.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance reappropriating $30,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund fund balance to the feasibility studies account, project number EN 2001 for the Vision Zero Action Plan.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do you have any questions or comments as emphatically as that motion was made?
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
Councilmember Dewey, did you have?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm thrilled to have this coming up. I'm thrilled that we're voting on it. I'm thrilled about Altus, and a fairly new person to Altus is Ian Thomas, who was the person that shepherded Vision Zero Complete Streets in Columbia. And I know him fairly well. I haven't seen him in a while, but I'm really glad to be working with him.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Gibbons.
Does this mean we're going to get started? I mean, it just seems like there's been such a delay in getting getting Vision Zero going? Is this what caused the delay? Is getting this person in place or what?
No, we took it out of the budget last year. When we took it out of the budget when the COVID hit. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, it came $100,000 cheaper with the delay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Bill passes first reading. Resolution 12, 2021.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution amending the contract with E. Meyer Contracting by increasing the contract amount by $159,035.24 for a not to exceed amount of $1,301,462.24 for the installation of a raised intersection at the intersection of Geyer Road, Doherty Ferry, and Peak Avenue, and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a second? Okay. All right, any questions or comments on the resolution? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 13, 2021.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution amending the contract with EFK Moen by increasing the contract amount by $20,000 for a not to exceed amount of $139,998 for additional construction engineering services for the installation of a raised intersection at the intersection of Geyer Road, Doherty Ferry, and Peak Avenue, and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
All right, we have got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this resolution? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
The resolution passes. All right, that's the end of our business agenda. Are there any city council reports? Councilmember Sears.
Yeah, I'd have two things I'd like to point out. One is we did a what do you call it? When we did the we passed the minutes and we passed the appointment of Pat Jones. And I wanted to just say that, you know, she served in an alternate capacity for a while and recently has been called on at the last minute several times and did her full duty. So I think that that it's great that that she now has accepted and we've now appointed her as a permanent member of that Board of Adjustment. And the other thing, this goes to your recognition that you did earlier, Tim. I think it was either Monday night or Tuesday. It was one of the very brutal cold nights. And I went to pick up my car and drove down Big Bend, right in the middle of Big Bend to the, just to the east of the railroad tracks and Geyer was a truck with its lights flashing in the middle of the street. And I didn't really see on my way going out what they were doing, but coming back, I was right up next to the truck and it was a crew fixing a water deal.
Wow.
The rain was coming down. One of them was in front of the truck on his knees, close to the street with a mallet pounding something. I don't know if it was ice or something else to chipping away at the street or something, but it looked absolutely miserable. And I really felt bad for the fact that there are people that we expect to work in those conditions, and then they do it and nobody really knows or even pays attention. But they save some people some heartache over the loss of water. So it kind of just goes along with your mentioning them earlier about how great they are, how hard they work, and they should get more recognition. So I'm trying to recognize them in this way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're here, Bob.
Yep. Wallace.
Yeah, well, Bob, we call that water main replacement program. Is what they were doing. You know, we all received a letter from the two newest elected members of the school board who are serving as liaison to the city council. And just a little history for some of us. You know, in 1853, a group of men, and it was men because women were second-class citizens at the time, initiated the paperwork for a charter to be issued by the state of Missouri for the city of Kirkwood. At almost the same time, those same group of men issued a charter for a school district, the Kirkwood School District Charter, and that's why our birth dates are so close together, the founding of the receiving of the charter for the city of Kirkwood and that school district. They understood the importance of public education, and it was critical in order for them to have a city with the most success in its future. Now, through that 170 plus years or so that we've had, there have been some ups and downs. First, that 101 first years, the schools were all segregated, which wasn't surprising because a number of the men were former slave owners and came from the South. But I say that to get to where we are today. Arguably, the biggest draw for residents in the city of Kirkwood is the school district. It's the largest employer we have in the city now. All but one of the school buildings reside within the borders of the city of Kirkwood. Our policemen serve as school resource officers in all of those buildings. Our firefighters provide protection. Our street public works departments, we supply water. They're one of our biggest electric consumers in the city. And yet we have almost no relationship with them officially. And I encouraged this some time ago to seek just to have an annual meeting with the school board members, just to update ourselves on where we are. Certainly, we always want to avoid, and they would too, any controversial political controversy that each of the others have. But there's some tremendous opportunities for us to have sharing of resources, whether those are facilities, our maintenance facility, or one that one of our big heroes that goes unheralded is our purchasing department. We're recently losing the longtime director over there, and that has benefited us tremendously. And one of the things I want to suggest in that when we talk about our budget is how we can kind of chart the benefits that we've had from having an effective purchasing department. But I say all of those, I want to encourage the mayor, and certainly I'd love some input from council members, because I don't think they received much in the way of a response to their letter. To just have a meeting with the school board president, Chad Kavanaugh. Let's set up a meeting. You guys can determine the agenda and the order of working, and let's have that first meeting. It always, just like any journey, it's got to start with that first step. So I just want to encourage us to get that done.
Yeah, a couple of things on that, Wallace. And one is, I've said for years, and I'm as guilty, it's just not something we've been good at. We did actually had a meeting tentatively scheduled last year. Russ and I met with the president at the time, Darnell, and the superintendent, Michelle, and we, in February, had a meeting. We were going to have a meeting in June, and then COVID hit and everything went haywire. And just a few weeks ago, Russ and I had a meeting, Zoom meeting with the superintendent and with school board members. So I was a little surprised to see that email because from another school board member. So we are working on that we intend on having that at some point in the near future. So.
All right, good. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, Liz.
Sorry, I just wanted to remind everybody that the annual meeting for the SBD is on Wednesday, the 24th, next Wednesday at 9 a.m. at the Kirkwood Performing Arts Center outside.
There potentially some refreshments going to be served at that, Liz?
Yes, there are. Little honeybees, biscuits and gravy will be there.
Oh, okay, that'll be novel.
Yeah.
All right, anything else from council?
Consent agenda was the term I was trying to think of before, and I appreciate nobody jumped in to help me out at all.
Because we had no idea what
sorry, right. I was trying to think of what it was. Because I felt your pain, I promise.
John, is that one of the signs of dementia?
Yeah.
All right, Chief Administrative Officer report.
I have nothing to report at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. City Attorney report.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
All right, City Clerk report.
Yes, Your Honor. The first item is to report on upcoming public hearings. At this time, we do not have any public hearings scheduled. The second item I have is the report of the February 17th, 2021 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The following action was taken. Staff presented a recommendation to amend the framework plan portion of the downtown master plan and parking study and the necessary zoning code text amendment. This was continued to the next meeting for further discussion. Staff presented the fourth quarter update on the Envision Kirkwood 2035 comprehensive plan, and staff presented updates on the zoning, subdivision, and sign code adoption projects under development. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. Can we have another city clerk report with this Your Honor thing? I kind of like that,
Take note, everyone.
Yeah, right. I could see
Don't let it get to your head.
Look at his head shaking. No way. All right. With that, our next regular meeting is 2 weeks on March 4th at 7 p.m. via Zoom, and this meeting is adjourned. See everybody soon.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.
All right.